How's it going today, guys? Hold on. Had to make sure the mic was on. I swear, I've done videos in the past where I'll sit here and I'll talk and I'll get all excited and do what I deem to be an awesome piece of content, play back the video just to see how it sounds, and there was none. So we're good to go. All right, today's video is if there was one thing that I could go back and change at 17 years old about my career, here's what it would be. Now, I am not someone that lives with any sort of regret. I cannot stand to live in the past whatsoever. All of us are hindsight millionaires. Hindsight is always 20/20. But for the sake of this video, in the hopes that it can bring you guys value and give you a different perspective, no matter what part of your journey you're on, I thought it'd be valuable to do. All right, so if I'm in a time machine right now, and I'm 17 years old again, the biggest thing that I would change about my career is not the time that I put in, not the career that I set out on. I spent a lot of time ensuring the career that I wanted to do. I became very comfortable with the time that I was going to put in. Those are all very important things. I would go back and think, what's my why? I'm kind of been experiencing a little bit of like a quarter life crisis, I'll call it. I've kind of gotten to a point where I've built the company up to a spot that obviously I'm very proud of. I've got a staff. I've hired my brother. I've been able to move to Arizona. I have put together, I'm putting together my Mount Rushmore of sports cards, which is a huge thing for me from a monetary goal perspective when I was younger. I basically crossed off a lot of things off my checklist. I've been very, very fortunate and very, very blessed. And when I look at I've kind of taken a step back and looked at my career and life and stuff like that, and I'm starting to ask myself, okay, so now what? Like, when moving on to the next step of well, why do I want to keep building, and what do I want to keep building, and what do I want to build for and towards, and all of this stuff, I've spent a lot of time also then reflecting on, well, what motivated me to get to this point? And I spent a lot of time thinking about that strictly because, now I have some time, I have a little bit of money, and what do I want to do with it? Obviously, I'm going to continue to grow ESA in these things, but why? And I keep asking the why, and I feel like that's probably a philosophical life question for all of us in some way, shape, or form. But when I look back to being 17 years old, the why for me building my career are things that really don't exist anymore. And it propelled me to where I'm at today. And they were foundationally impactful to my career and to, as I said, my life. But I don't resonate with those thought processes or with that version of myself whatsoever anymore. So it's weird to me to think back, and I don't, like when you set out a why, and maybe why is to say, I'll just make something up, support your family or this and that. Then when you go back and look at it and you see your family and you're like, oh, well, that makes sense because they are fed and I was able to raise kids or support my spouse and this and that. When I look back, my whys were kind of vindictive, kind of asshole-ish, very 17-year-old angst whys. So you're probably wondering, stop feeding around the bush and just tell us what the freaking whys were. So when I look back and dig within, my biggest whys were proving my teachers and professors wrong because I was an absolute shit student growing up. I don't think there's a more summarizing perspective of that or example of that than my senior year in high school. I had a meeting, I was called into, and had a meeting with my vice principal and my parents. And the vice principal asked me point blank in front of my parents, do you even care about your future? Because you're really just throwing everything away. And 25-year-old me doesn't really resent that. Maybe kind of an asshole move and a little bit of a prick move, and maybe not the way I would have gone about it personally, but I literally had a 0.2 my second semester of senior year. I think I graduated high school with a 2.1 or a 2.2. Now, that wasn't to say I didn't know the material. I was a kid that would not do any of the homework and then ace tests. So basically, I would spend more time in school figuring out the bare minimum that I had to do to get by than I did actually doing the work. I would literally, in school, go through, I'd get basically the curriculum and stuff like that, and then hand you here are the weighted grades and stuff like that. And if tests were 60%, I was like, well, I've only got to do, 6% of the homework, and I've got to do, then I got the attendance grade, and if I show up 60% of the time, I literally did this at 14, 15, 16, 17 years old in high school. I also wasn't then kind about it. If teachers would call me out, if anyone would call me out, I'd be like, well, you shouldn't have it weighted that way then, because I'm going to pass, so it is what it is. C's and D's get degrees, so do not try to be the student I was. But basically, that was a huge chip in my shoulder. Being that 17-year-old angst kid getting told that you're not going to be shit and that you aren't shit, like literally, I'll just be blunt and honest because not many people watch these anyway, and I'd rather be honest with the few that do. Like, I literally had a goal in my mind of, by the time that I'm a sophomore in college, my senior year of high school, I'm going to make more money than all of you. And it worked. I ended up doing that. The other thing, second part, was the attention from the opposite sex. So I wasn't a star athlete. I was not a scholar, as I just said. So growing up, you obviously look and seek the attention of the opposite sex or the same sex, whatever sex that you're into, or that you seek attention from. When you're at that age, that's obviously a huge thing. And I was super insecure about that. I obviously, as I said, wasn't the scholar, wasn't the like, so I didn't have like anything that really I felt separated me. You know, like there was nothing special about me or this or that, which, oh, that's garbage, but it's just the insecurities that you tell yourself, especially at that age, that just keep growing and growing and growing. And I hung out with a lot of athletes and very good students. So like it all kind of played into this perfect role. So I thought, well, I'm going to become successful, or what I thought was this version of success. I'm going to make money. I'm going to start a business. I'm going to do this stuff and I'm going to make something for myself. And then that'll get people to like me. That's going to be, you know, the gateway to getting people to, you know, have that admiration that I was seeking for me. As I started to get older and as I grew out of this phase, I've realized it along the way. But really, it kind of all came to a head when, you know, I started hiring and started thinking about the next chapter and what then got me here and all this stuff. I realized like all of the things that were foundational in taking me from 17 to 25, I'll just use that, are things that I don't actually care about anymore. Like, I don't need that attention from the opposite sex. I never did. It was just an insecurity that I had when I was 17 years old that I've absolutely since grown out of. When it comes to my teachers, they probably don't even know that I exist. I couldn't even tell you probably 3/4 of their names, probably more. I vaguely, obviously remember what they look like. You point them out, but like I don't remember the majority of them. I don't know what they made. I don't know like their stories. As I said, they probably don't even remember me. So it's like, what did I prove in becoming? In like, I didn't prove anything to them. I almost look at them as with appreciation for treating me like shit, or what I, you know, thought to be treating me like shit at the time, because now I look at it from a positive perspective of, hey, maybe they, for some, and I don't think this is actually the case, but hey, maybe they thought this is how we're going to get the most out of this kid. Because if we just talk him up in this and that, you know, that's not going to make him tick, and it's not going to develop that work ethic that he's going to need, that's going to take him to, you know, new heights, because really that's what it did. So I'm actually super grateful that that's how I was treated. And as I started to, you know, grow my career and attain new levels of money and this and that, I stopped caring about it. So like these goals that I said, well, I'm going to make more money than that person. And, you know, in 2 years, I'm going to do this. And once I got there, I never actually cared about it, because it was well before that I actually stopped caring about money. I think a lot of that's been contributing to like this quarter life type crisis thing that I've been having. Today, I don't believe in a lot of the whys that built my last chapter. And there's nothing that I regret. It's nothing like, but the whys are so much different from who I am today. And I'm so cognizant of the fact of, one, that's absolutely okay. But two, what are the whys for my next chapter? And I want them to be healthy whys. So that relates back to the beginning of the video. And if there's one thing that I could go back and be 17 and change, and after talking about it, I wouldn't change it. Because, and this just fits with the narrative of I don't ever have any regrets and everything happens for a reason. That literally was at that time the fuel that I needed to get me to where I am today. And it laid the foundation for me having the mindset and the perspective on everything that I do today. But what I would push each and every single one of you watching this, who are still watching this, find your why and have it be a why that you are passionate about, that you are excited about, and that I would say is going to actually motivate you. And it doesn't have to be something great. And I think now I'm actually even just talking through this. This is almost therapy. It's really evident to me now that the why doesn't even have to necessarily be one that's of positivity. I would say my last why was one that was negative, but it fueled me enough to get me to where I'm at and enough to actually grow me out of that phase. So I would say find a why that is absolutely positively something that burns like that you can feel burning in your stomach, that just motivates you, and you just feel this like I want to run through a brick wall. Because at 17, 18, that was absolutely the fire. And I swear I ran through brick walls for 8 years, really on that fuel. And now that that fuel, I would say, is burnt out, being honest, I'm really looking to that next why. What's this next chapter going to be driven by? What's that fuel? And then how am I going to ignite it? So I hope this was valuable. As always, I appreciate you watching. I look forward to talking with you again soon.